Babies, the Judds, right here on the Coyote Medicine Show, only on the Hazy Radio Network. Your ticket to flight here in the middle of the night. Your ticket to flight in the great daylight. Man, we had a great flight today. That was fun, guys. Appreciate those that were there. Man alive, it was a cool little ride, just like tonight, man. We're going on the slide, and of course, Grandpa, wow, is more than happy to tell you about the good old days. Just about any time you want to name it, I got a story for you somewhere there. Wow. And the story is building and building and building to the point that humanity is just going to burst forth in a great big old blossom, because this story is not one that can be read. It's only one that can be felt, lived, and embraced, babies. It's wilder than anything that you've ever thought of before. It's meaner than the meanest rodeo, the tougher than the toughest rodeo, tougher than the toughest lumberjack ever to live, Paul Bunyan, etc. Babies, it's a wild life. Yes, indeedy. But, there's been some spiritual giants that have really carried us through all these moments in time that seem so trying. And now I sit here and say to you earlier, just a few minutes ago, that none of that stuff ever really happened. That it's all been kind of undone. So let me tell you how that does run. And you just kind of get in on the fun here, babies. You'll understand what's really going on here. You'll see the time frame a whole lot differently than you have before. Now, I've talked a lot about planetary ascension and how there's this one morning coming when we're all going to wake up and everything's going to be just different and changed, and we're all going to remember it quite differently than we've ever have before. There'll be UFOs and angels in the air. There'll be, interplanetary communication and travel, but without difficulty. We'll all be living in a completely different way, still in the same basic person and body, but that'll be greatly changed too. And we'll be moving in a more positive direction. I can't find the right word for it, so we'll call it a positive direction for lack of a better word. We'll be moving in a more expansive direction. Our life will be becoming ascendant completely. So how do we facilitate this? It seems like 1 minute you're here one way, and 1 minute you're here the next. And that's essentially the formula. You will go to sleep on this night. Everyone will. There will not be an awakened person across the planet when this great sleep comes. But when you arise from it, you arise in a different place. Yet it's the same place. You've just remembered it differently, and therefore you've created it differently. So let me tell you how we do this. It's beautiful, babies. Those of us who were here in the beginning, those souls that were a part of the great beginning of humanity, yes, that have been with humanity throughout all of its generations, and have worked tirelessly with you, your heart, our heart together, to bring forward this time of ascendancy, to remember who the hell we are and get on with the program. Quit, dumbing ourselves down and mucking around in the gravel here, man. It's hard knocks there, babies. We've had enough. So now, as we remember, since we've made peace now with that which we thought was our greatest enemy, now we've made peace with that. Changes come into being, and a bunch of us are empowered then back to live back through the dream, to essentially go back through time. Now you'll see us in this life as disappearing for a while. This simply won't be here. We'll be here 1 minute and gone the next. And for some it'll seem like we're gone for 20 minutes, but for most it's going to seem like we're gone for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe 20, 21 days, something like that. That's what it'll seem like on this side of it. So there'll be a little bit of ruggedy turf, but we'll leave enough energy behind there to keep everything on an even keel and keep the ruggedy from being too ruggedy. You see what I mean? Smooth it out. We'll leave that energy there, because that's your heart, that's your desire. Nobody needs to, get hit hard this time. This time, it's coming in simply and completely. So now this bunch of souls that were here in the beginning, that essentially are the Adams and Eves that began this world, begat this world. These beings are with us now in human form, and they have gathered together in heart and will soon follow in physical presence. And as they do, they create a gateway to the past. We go back to the beginning, just like I've been talking. We go right back to that place. You know, some call it garden. It's really a planetary reality that's this one in its beginning days. As we began to have days, as the sun separated from life and became an orbit in the sky. See, there's quite a number of changes when we began to live life this way. Man, we've been through so many twists and turns. It's just unreal. But we'll go back there. And we'll spend, like seems to us, whatever time is required, 2, 3 years, a month, a day, whatever, in that garden, inhabiting ourselves as those original beings, redreaming and recreating all that we have lived. And that's why one morning, as we return, that's the morning you awaken. And everything is different. Because we've gone back to the beginning of time and changed what happened there. You see how we undo it? It's clever, ain't it? And it's already in place. There's no stopping it. No one will interfere with it now, for we're allowed to do this, for we have made peace with those who would have blocked us from it. You see, I had to, in my own way, in this lifetime, in an energetic sense. Now understand, I've served no dark masters, but I've had to, in a way, inhabit their energy, their life, their way of being in myself, and keep that managed and limited until the time now when we could make peace with it, and then go back to the beginning. Because if it's made peace with, this essential energy, this energy that really is at the core of all of that we see of as contrary, well, that's the energy I've carried as a balance to some great light that I carried too. But it's also myself, the same as I've been describing. And I had to get that part back, and I had to make complete peace with it. And we have. We've done it. And babies, I didn't think it was possible. as positive as I am, I was wondering if it would ever happen, and then it did. Babies, the time just came, and it's just right. And so now that we've been able to establish that, and I'm not the only one, but now that we've been able to establish that, then the doorway to the past is open. The gateway is open completely, and nothing is stopping us. So we just dream ourselves back into that dream, babies, and that's where we're headed. And that's the tale for tonight, you know. That's what we're doing. That's, you know, an up-to-the-minute update on exactly what's happening here in this, don't call it five-dimensional way, as we're looking at it from sitting here in human form. But this is exactly why and how the paradigm shift does occur. Ain't that beautiful? Did we design it well or what, guys? My compliments. You really kicked ass this time in that loving, soft sort of way that humanity is well known for. Guys, you think your reputation is tough and crazy, right? You think you're all a bunch of, you know, don't you meet me in a dark alley kind of people. What you is, baby? That tough side of you never served you, never was you. I don't care how good the movies try to make it look. It's downright stupid. Dumber than burnt toast on a Saturday night. I mean, what do you want that for? You don't. You see? Same way with all that bullshit. We let it go, babies. The reality of the heart says our greatest strength is in our softness. When we find, this is why you got so many great big old guys that hate fighting. They're love bunnies. It's such irony that they're big people. They don't want to hurt a fly, let alone a person. You know, I've met this type of person repeatedly in this life. Big guys, you know, that everybody's kind of afraid of. And there's no need to fear anything. It's the gentlest of the gentle. See, That's the reality of humanity. That's the other side of it. Because inside this hard old male person managed somehow to hang on to that gentleness throughout all of this toughness, throughout all of this insanity. And man brought it back together, was able, because he could maintain that gentle nature despite some huge invasions and stuff like that of energy and so forth. Wow, because he could endure that. He could bring that gentleness then to this being of the rowdy nature that could not possibly be contained by any other nature in this reality. There was one person, one being that could do it, and everybody knew, because they created him that way. You know, the only person that can put you back together is yourself. So you take into yourself, sometimes through life's experience and some of the difficult stuff, in the same way that I have, you've taken back in parts of yourself, in rage and tragedy. But it's really, secretly then and openly now, your triumph. You've managed to endure. You've managed to live in love despite all of that. And guess what? You created a hell of a great life for yourself. And now comes the reality. The truth that you've always been living for. The reward that you've always known was taken from you. That you felt robbed of. You know, not in a victimized sort of way, but in a way that you really missed it. And where the hell did it go? And who the hell took it? Etc., etc. Always, it's been hidden right inside of ourselves. That's how we got it through, man. We had to hide it in the darkest parts. And only by going through those darkest parts could we bring it back to life. Only by dealing with what that, as we saw as the darkest part. Which really, I remind you, the fooling thing was on us, babies. The joke always is. That was us persuading us to be decent. To gain some gentleness. It's both sides of the same soul. It got to feeling separate. It got separated somewhere way back in the wham bam, babies. And it went away, and it was like a third of ourselves, a third of humanity lived in darkness and couldn't be found. You know, we had to come back and provide them some solid ground, you know. So we laid this sweet little trap. The innocent God babies came and became the victims of ourselves, the dark beings that came and occupied us and brought us up in a whole different way, taught us a whole bunch of mean-ass lessons along the way. But there we go, babies. We're undoing it. See, we don't have to leave it there in history. It'd fester and boil and kill us all if we did. So, baby, we just take it down. We go back to the beginning of time, those of us that have that ability, that are of that energy, that original vibe tribe, as I call it. Yes, indeed. We go back to that beautiful valley. We've been on this journey for a number of years now. We go back to that beautiful valley, that sacred place where life began. And guess what? We're sitting right on top of it. It's just a matter of moving through the dimension a tiny little bit. You know, for those that are whizzes in spirit, it's nothing. We'll be there in a heartbeat, baby. But like I said, you'll miss us for like 20, 21 days. And then we return. And so does reality. Truth. The peaceful existence forevermore. Because we could endure to the bitter end, which became then the beginning, which ends all of that, and there is no beginning. There's only life continuing onward forever and ever in the peaceful, equitous way that it's always been manifest. That's what we're about to do here. That's what we are doing here right now, even as we await our arrival at the beginning. Oh, babies, isn't it sweet to be alive in times like these? Wow, isn't it great to be alive living on Earth in this funky little dimension we call the Matrix, which has been so tricky and difficult for us. Isn't it nice to see that solutions are always simple? It just takes an open heart, a willing love, and a couple of great balls of fire. Male or female, we wear them. One way or another. You understand my meaning, babies? We got it. We're here. At last. Peace is at hand. Peace is in our hands because it's in our heart, finally, and shall be forevermore. It only builds from here, babies. Now you know the rest of the story. Now, doesn't that sound, that has a familiar ring to it. I can't remember where I've heard that 1,000 times before. Some funky old boy used to be on the radio here, man. I heard that he passed on to the angels not that long ago. So maybe that's where I'm getting some of my inspiration from. That old rascal, you know. Oh, what was his name? Paul Horry. Hey. Well, we ain't adopted those habits, thank goodness. You're listening to Grandpa Coyote here, rattle on in the reality of love. Only on the Coyote Medicine Show, only on the Hazy Radio Network. Your ticket to flight here in the middle of the night, your ticket to flight in the great daylight. Babies, all the time you got it right. Just a matter of realizing it, don't you know, don't you see? Oh, babies, indeed you do. So here we go, another little flight. Right here on Coyote Medicine Show, babies. Enjoy. Spread them wings at this. Oh, catch some air, babies. Catch it.